Welcome back, everybody. Light of Void here, bringing you another cast of the all-famous Beastyqt versus his opponent, who is also Terran, DeMusliM. Now, as we all know, Beasty is well known for his mech play and his very unique style of playing Terran. Whilst I'm not really certain about DeMusliM, but they are both very good players. High GM at least, and I believe DeMusliM's also a pro player, whilst Beasty, he is as he calls himself, a professional YouTuber. Beasty is going to go for the gas first, whilst DeMusliM, he's going for a barracks first, and he's deciding to hide his barracks so that maybe Beasty will be confused by this when he scouts with the SCV, if he decides to scout, of course. Still building that barracks, and gas coming right along. I'm really not sure what both of these players are going to do, but I suspect DeMusliM may be going for a more conventional bio play. Whilst Beasty, knowing him, there's probably an 80% chance of him going mech. And if you do not know, Beasty is also a relatively famous YouTuber, and you can go check out his channel. He does lots of stuff about Starcraft, and he mainly plays Terran, and he is the real mech god, as they say. The real mech god. Not like a Velo, of course. We do see DeMusliM, he's opting for the Reaper fast expand, while Beasty is doing the exact same thing as well, but because Beasty got the gas first, he'll be able to put down a factory slightly earlier than DeMusliM. Well, Beasty, I think he does spot that barracks. Yup, so he knows nothing's up. Maybe Beasty was bamboozled there for a while, but I'm sure these are just little strategies that you might not think of. Of course, it's not as important to wall off as Terran versus Terran, so not walling off is perfectly fine. But unfortunately, I think Beasty's SCV is going straight to the grave. Straight to the grave. You know, wouldn't it be awesome? I was thinking about this. Wouldn't it be awesome if units die and they leave corpses on the floor? But then that would be extremely cluttery. It would be extremely cluttered if you have a whole bunch of Marines die and they leave like a bunch of corpses on the floor. DeMusliM, he is going to go scout with his Reaper. Beasty's Reaper is already on the patrol, and I think Beasty's Reaper got the first shot off, but DeMusliM decides to retreat for now, and he does have a Marine coming out, and I must say, those Marine skins, man, they make Marines look like plague survivors or plague doctors or something with the unit portrait like that. Plague doctors. Not sure whether Beasty has the skins. He does have the skins from the first war chest. I'm quite sure of that. Which, to be honest, I prefer the skins from the first war chest as well. The Terran skins especially. It's more subtle and, you know, it's more elegant and sophisticated in a way. Beasty is opting for one Hellion and one Cyclone. Possibly to make a small early push, you know, just to... Oh, I think the Reaper got another SCV. I think it did, or it got a Marine at least. DeMusliM Cyclone is looking to chase down that Reaper, but Reapers are too fast, and Beasty's Hellion does manage to fend off that Reaper for now. Beasty microing to his heart's content with the Reaper. Of course, do notice that, I mean, Beasty and DeMusliM, they have very high APMs, and they're very good players, so they're not likely to mess up. Oh, look at Beasty nearly managed to save his Reaper there. The Cyclone is going to chill out here for a while. Now the Cyclone is going to join the fight. Meanwhile, we have two Marines and a Cyclone for DeMusliM over here. Whoop. Well, unfortunately, Cyclones, despite being propelled by a very powerful engine, it still can't keep up with a Reaper. Because Reapers, apparently, jetpacks are faster than a car's engine, so you know what? totally makes sense, of course. Do you see 2 more Cyclones and DeMusliM going to make 2 more Cyclones out of that reactor factory? He is adding on another factory, which leads me to believe that DeMusliM may be going MECH. Another Cyclone. It is Cyclone Fest for Terran versus Terran. I mean, I rarely go this style, but this is a very powerful opening, especially if you're against a bio opponent who will in fact only have probably 1 tank and a bunker at this point. But these Cyclone openers, they're sort of like Roach versus Roaches, and equivalent to ZVZ. So I mean, sort of like a Roach battle. It's just tanky ranged units trying to get at each other, but actually doing nothing in the end. Well, maybe chipping off 1 or 2 units, but it's not really going to achieve much. This Hellion is used for scouting, and Hellions, they are much lighter and are able to drive around much quicker, but that Hellion does get, I'm not sure what the word is, they do get blasted away by the tornado blasters. Blasted away. God, what an awful pun. Beastyqt is going to land his 3rd base. Meanwhile, the DeMusliM, his SCVs are just chilling out here. Oh, they're going to do some work before returning to mining. But this is quite a large number of Cyclones, I must say. I'm not sure what the exact numbers are, but I mean, wow, that's a lot of Cyclones. That's 9 Cyclones in total that the DeMusliM has at the moment, whilst Beastyqt has 4 Hellions and 5 Cyclones. So, I mean, if Beastyqt doesn't pull his SCVs to repair, he's definitely going to lose this fight very quickly. And Beastyqt, come on Beastyqt, you can do it, boy. You can pull your SCVs right now to repair. And he does pull his SCVs, but to attack instead. I think Beastyqt has tank. Nope, that wasn't a tank, I misheard it. These SCVs are just going to get bombarded by those tornado blasters. The DeMusliM is pressing the attack. Beastyqt's SCVs at his 2nd base were all killed. It is not good for him at all. There's 1 tank here to fend off the Cyclones from the DeMusliM, but I mean, Beastyqt's definitely very behind right now. I mean, the DeMusliM already has 2 base saturated. His 3rd base is going to be saturated in a few moments, and Beastyqt, he just lost a ton of workers. I mean, it is 40 to 58 SCVs right now. It's not exactly very optimal for Beastyqt. But we do see Cyclones doing a little bit of scouting, poking around, you know, trying to establish that alpha dominance here, if you know what I'm talking about. The DeMusliM showing Beastyqt that he's the real man, and well, I'm inclined to think that Beastyqt is better at playing MECH, but it is still a very, very significant worker disadvantage for Beastyqt right now. But, you know, Beastyqt always manages to make some kind of epic comeback, and as we see already, there are already 3 tanks stationed here, so I'm not sure what the DeMusliM can do if he tries to engage into these tanks, which of course he's not going to engage into those tanks because that would just be pure suicide. And Beastyqt, he is starting to build up that SCV count again, but he is severely delayed and his economy took a big hit. Whilst the DeMusliM, he is just going to make DeMusliM, what is he making? He's making 2 armories at this very moment, whilst Beastyqt actually has already completed his armory and is nearly halfway done with his upgrades, so that's very good for Beastyqt. They both started Blue Flame at nearly the same time, and Beastyqt is going to try to establish a little bit of dominance in this map by trying to get some damage done with these tanks. Well, unfortunately, if these tanks are caught off guard, that would be quite bad. Beastyqt, as you know him, he likes doing little counterattacks, and these Hellions do come in. These Hellions, unfortunately, do not have Blue Flame done. And with these 3 liberated, instantly getting killed by that missile turret. Very good foresight by the DeMusliM there, building a missile turret there. And we see the Hellions getting a little bit of workers, you know, equalizes the workers killed for the DeMusliM and Beastyqt, so it's about even now. And I hope the siege tank is not trapped behind that missile turret, because that would be extremely sad if it was. That would be extremely sad. I'm pretty sure I can get out here. I'm not sure what the siege tank is doing still being there. Possibly DeMusliM's scared of another Hellion run by in his main base. The medevac is flying back, but the medevac actually spots DeMusliM's little push here, and DeMusliM actually does have 2 full medevacs of Hellbats, and the medevac gets out in the nick of time. It's very nice. The Hellions, man, this Hellion skin is seriously so rockstar like. And oh dear, these Hellions, I mean these Hellbats do have blue flame done. I mean, Beastyqt is trying to get these Hellions, Hellbats out of his third base. Very nicely done. The thing is, I have seen players opt for a different approach. For example, I was playing a Masters 1 player the other day who also went mech. And guess what? He went for a planetary fortress at this location and an orbital at this location instead. It does seem to make sense because this location is very vulnerable to drops and aerial harass by medevacs or liberators. And if you build a planetary here, I mean, you can defend like Hellion drops and circling, not circling run-bys, what else? Basically only drops with ground units. Whereas if you build a planetary here, your siege tanks are already going to be here, so it's not really that optimal, but Beastyqt is going for another orbital command. I mean, he probably should have went for a planetary here, I feel like, so his army wouldn't be like drawn in 2 locations. But DeMusliM is going to try to engage here, and I mean, Beastyqt is in a severe supply disadvantage, and DeMusliM is trying to push through this. It does look like it's a very, very bad situation for Beastyqt, but siege tanks are very good at ground defense. And Beastyqt also has a few Vikings out on his own. But I mean, DeMusliM can't really do anything from here because Beastyqt does have the Vikings. And if DeMusliM attempts to unsiege and move forward here, the Vikings would give vision for Beastyqt's tanks. So Beastyqt's tanks would kill DeMuslim tanks very easily. We do see DeMusliM, he's just now establishing a 4th base, whilst Beastyqt's 4th base is already up and running. And he does have the advantage of displaying an orbital, so he can drop more mules, drop more scans, be more map aware of where exactly DeMuslim's army is, and from that point on, Beastyqt can just establish an economic lead. But I mean, DeMuslim, he's just not giving up on this tank contain, this soft contain, I guess. But Beastyqt, his production has not been harmed, so he can just continue producing Vikings, Liberators, and Siege tanks, all he likes. Beastyqt is going to build 2 Liberators, presumably to counteract the tanks from DeMuslim. And this is another sensor tower is coming up. He did lose that sensor tower, which was here previously. And I believe, oh, this is quite a nice move actually. These siege tanks, they are inside this choke point, and well, I mean, but siege tanks do have slightly higher DPS when unsieged, but they lose the advantage of the range. And this is Beastyqt's Hellion, which has killed more workers, but overall it's quite even in the workers killed. Beastyqt doing little Hellion run-bys here and there, trying to poke in at DeMuslim's defense, trying to find a weak spot in it, but of course DeMuslim, he is very good at holding off. But Beastyqt, his first 2 Liberators are out. And he does pick up another 4 Hellions. And DeMuslim, he is establishing his 5th base already, whilst Beastyqt, he is trapped on 4 bases. DeMuslim is at a slight supply lead, but overall very equal. It is quite impressive that Beastyqt managed to hold off the first engage by DeMuslim there. There were so many tanks from DeMuslim. I thought Beastyqt was going to lose it there, but apparently these Hellions are going to do a sort of honeybee dance, and they're going to signal to the queen bee that there's some honey here, and the honey in the form of a medevac and 4 Hellions, which aren't going to get anything done. Wow, that was some really, really quick micro by Beastyqt. He dropped in. He unloaded and picked up nearly instantly. It looks like DeMuslim, he built a tech lab on the starport. I presume he's going to get Liberator range, or he's going to get some Ravens. And Beastyqt's medevac is unfortunately going to die. Wow, that medevac's at full health, but it dies. Anyway, and we see DeMusliM with a huge mech army in the middle. But DeMusliM, I mean, he's definitely not as experienced as playing mech as Beasty, I can say that for sure. Beasty does have 2 sensor towers set up. He knows exactly where DeMusliM is going to strike. He can rotate his army up here and down here nearly very quickly. And as Beasty has very good map awareness, so you can trust him to be very good defensively. Both players are nearly maxed out, and we're going to see a very big engagement soon, of course. It's always very nice to see, you know, mech engagements, and Beasty is building a lot of missile turrets, presumably to establish a forward position, and these liberators are going to zone out the tanks. Meanwhile, Beasty's Vikings are going to win the air battle, so I mean, DeMusliM has to retreat here. There's no way he can stand against the might of the freedom zones. Freedom zones indeed, and there's a lot of tanks here, but these tanks are just fresh meat to the liberators with their Concorde cannons. Another planetary by DeMusliM. He has so many planetaries, I mean, I'm not sure what the planetary here is for, presumably to prevent any sort of Hellion run-bys. But the command center is going to get cancelled. Beasty already has another orbital command. This very different playstyles by Beasty and DeMusliM. I mean, DeMusliM is opting for lots and lots of planetaries, whilst Beasty is very confident in his army positioning, and he opts for orbitals instead. So it's definitely quite interesting to see these 2 very different playstyles and 2 very different approaches to the game. And Beasty is going to get in 3 Hellions into DeMusliM's natural expansion, but these Hellions are going to get cleaned up. Whilst Beasty, he does notice that there's a siege tank line here. He won't go forward. But Beasty has a very good spread of siege tanks, definitely. He is establishing a forward position with some missile turrets here, so that if Liberators do siege on top of Beasty's siege tanks, these missile turrets will kill the Liberators in no time. Looks like Beasty is going for high side auto tracking. That's quite good, given that he's going to use these missile turrets for forward defense in a sort of way. And both players are relatively equal in upgrades, and it does appear that DeMusliM is going to get Liberator range right now. Liberator range, very good at getting Beasty's siege tanks if he does manage to siege on top of Beasty's siege tank. And unfortunately, as I said, this base is not exactly the most safe base in a sort of way. I mean, it's going to get killed instantly. There's nothing Beasty can do about that. DeMusliM is scanning to see if Beasty's army is rotating all the way from here to here. It looks like Beasty is going to be very aggressive. He's just going straight for the throat. He's going straight for the heart of DeMusliM. He's going to tear out that heart. And DeMusliM, he's like a frightened baby. He's running back and trying to get at Beasty's tanks. But once Beasty sieges up these tanks, this will be an impenetrable fortress. And Beasty has a higher Viking count, and there's no way DeMusliM can engage into this. And I think DeMusliM may in fact just have killed his entire army just by running them into Beasty's siege tank line. And what I said about planetary, this planetary is achieving absolutely nothing. It does increase the armor of the command center though, I guess. So I mean, it's not exactly achieving nothing, but Beasty, he's just established such a dominant position in here. I mean, DeMusliM's production is going to, his units are going to be rallied here, but there's no way he can break through this siege tank line. I mean, one army is trapped here and the other army is trapped here. Meanwhile, Beasty's production is unhindered, and the Hellbats run into the third base, and DeMusliM, he is working from a very terrible angle. He is trying to evacuate, I guess. He's trying to make another command center, but he's instantly gets spotted by Beasty's reinforcing mech army, and I think that this may be game for DeMusliM. There's no way he can recover from this. Unfortunately, Beasty's positioning is just better than DeMusliM's. The Liberators are going to zone out anything that comes across here, and he's fighting on 2 fronts. The tanks do manage to kill off the mules, the poor mules, I guess. The DeMusliM army is right here. Beasty noticed it immediately. Will he unsieges these liberators? Yes, he unsieges immediately. He's going to put the siege liberators right on top of the tanks. And I mean, with such a... Well, that's game. That is game for DeMusliM. I mean, wow. DeMusliM just has no workers left anymore. I think DeMusliM probably knew that he was going to lose when Beastyqt sieged up right here, and the Muslim's army was caught off guard and he was running around like a screaming baby, running right back to his base before getting his entire army obliterated. But that was definitely a very, very exciting game. I mean, DeMusliM was in the supply lead in the early game. He managed to get some work done with the siege tank push in the early game. Like, he sort of sieged up here and he was hammering away on Beasty's 4th base, but Beastyqt managed to hold that off, and he managed to make an epic comeback by simply outplaying DeMusliM. Very nicely done, very nicely done. Definitely a very fun game. Well, thanks for watching, guys. It's been a pleasure casting, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!